Alright, what's happening, everybody? Now, before I cover the new generation of cancer chronic disease treatments, I thought I would cover the new generation of things being built on top of HEX. Now, I remember ages ago someone saying they were surprised that a new front end hadn't been built because the existing front end was like relatively basic. It was very functional. Again, that's from memory, so that could be, I could have some errors there. Next on the list, in simple terms, I guess a lot of people in the HEX ecosphere, people who aren't in the HEX ecosphere, maybe people in crypto in general, maybe they're monitoring the whole HSI buyback function. That's coming up, I think November 13th, thereabouts. You can check out the Telegram groups and things like that. It's got a lot of detailed reports. It has, you can pull up the commands. There's heaps of videos about it. This is basically my little take on how it could play out in the future. Now, I drew a little graph. I love drawing my little graphs. Sometimes I get bored, and I guess now, hopefully you can read that, because I do have the camera inverted, so obviously the logo is going the correct way, and you can actually read things on the screen. Now, if you took money and you bought HEX with it, you then create the function to not create a native HEX, but create a HSI. Assuming you'll do this through the ICSA front end, which, mind you, if you are using that to mint HEX and HDRN at the end of a stake, I saw on some tweets it's some pretty good advice, like maybe use a different window, because I was actually looking at the other chains. Now, let the dust settle. Hadn't heard any negatives really with the ETHW ETHF chains. Still not going to touch the ETHF chain just for the time being, just so I don't get too confused. Basically, I'm looking forward to having ETH proof of work, ETH 2.0, proof of stake, and then also Pulse chain. Yeah, so then if you're using the ICSA front end, you can then, perform these actions. You can also mint, because I was like, where do you get the HDRN? How do you do this? And lo and behold, that front end is very, very good, extremely good. It makes you wonder, like, which other front ends would you, I mean, there are other front ends out there, and everyone has their own preference. But for me, just like I haven't gone down the whole other derivatives path, I've sort of focused on the HDRN and ICSA and HSI and the Watsas. Yeah, that's just my preference, I'm still not going to be chasing down the other one. I guess you called, not the rival to it, but the other token, that you burn to create another token to mine. That, I'm pretty sure you guys know the one. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So if you've got this here, you've got, say, HEX, buy HEX, turn it to a HSI, use the function, sell the HSI to the contract, selling it for ICSA. Then you have the loop back function, whereby you can, maybe if you wanted to, you could sell the ICSA and directly swap it for HEX, or swap off USD and then swap it for HEX. I'm not sure why. Maybe people have different preferences. Maybe they're favoring different liquidity pools. I don't know. That's just my analysis. And then I looked a level deeper on top of that. If you were to say you get to the second box here, and say it gets to the point where HDRN starts to become a lot more valuable, because maybe it's getting burnt up, and you've got the arbitrage opportunities that take place that keep this whole system ticking over, there is a possibility in the future that you actually burn that much HEX, like not burn that much HEX, but that much hex would be staked out 555, created into HSIs, entered into this system, and go through the arbitrage and the whole circulation, when the price of Hedron might get that valuable that the ability to loan against the HSI starts also presenting an arbitrage opportunity. So if you could imagine the total supply of hex being dried up and, you know, it making it very hard for people to get hex unless you actually hold it now and stake it, I could see that happening. And that's another, it's like another layer on top of the layer. So the initial layer to me would be the ICSA hex feedback through this whole process. Then later on, it's almost like the bond market. Then once the bond market kicks off further, I can envision basically a credit type system where people are loaning against the HSIs because the price of Hedron is that valuable that there's an arbitrage opportunity. So you could actually take your hex, if you're able to get it, turn it into a HSI, then the HSI you can borrow against it. So that creates another layer on top of the initial feedback loop. And all of them, from my understanding, do feedback into hex, which is like, becomes extremely scarce. The T-shares are what is driving everything. And as they go up and to the right, so too may the whole system. Again, that's just my brief analysis on that. I find it extremely fascinating. What's this? Yeah, that's like a simple graph, you know. What you would do if you were to, you know, enter into the bidding on the HSIs. But yeah, that's about it on that one. So the next thing, I guess I'll cover this. Not so much crypto related. Biotech entrepreneur investing in a new generation of cancer chronic disease treatments. I'll play this back, it might have an ad. But for context, I guess I'll read this first. Basically, last year, Gravitron, can't even pronounce that word, gained development and commercialized rights for the Chinese engineered ROCK2 inhibitor, a drug that targets the Rho and Rho containing protein gains 2 and penetrates shit. I know I'm not in this field. The central nervous system to provide therapeutic treatment for cancer, autoimmune and genetic diseases, according to a press release. It's got a link there. Basically, it goes on to say when this isoform that we work on, ROCK2, gets activated, disease happens, aging happens, cells cease becoming pretty cells that exist when they're young and healthy, and they become ugly cells that are disease. They're aging. School further explained, and we inhibit that pathway with a new generation of drugs that we're making. So I think that's like a simple explanation on top of what I was trying to explain up here, because I don't understand all of this. Purely repeating, similar to a lot of my analysis data I come across, like when I was calling the rates, it's not me making this up. It's me going to experts who have a proven track, who have called a lot of things correctly, like the upcoming midterms, which I'll get into later. And in this particular case, I think that if you have a healthy nation, that's what you want. And this is why. Basically, the area of neurobiology is the last stronghold of metaphysics in a medicine. It is important, the CEO said. Right now, 10% of people who have reached the age of 65 will have Alzheimer's. At the age of 85, that number will be close to 50%. It's going to cost America, probably in the later part of 2028, about $1 trillion a year, just wiping the drool off patients' mouths. Just caring for people that are sick and not being able to do anything, and not being able to do anything for this patient population is going to be not only a drain on families, not only a drain on the economy. In fact, I think it will bankrupt America by then. Warsko continued. We have to do things to change outcome. So instead of continuing doing the same thing which keeps failing, basically this particular, where is it? I'll play back. Will it let me? Might be an ad.
Welcome back. We are waiting on the GDP this morning. In a slowing economy, we are searching for growth, and it can be found right now in biotech. My next guest has started several biotech companies throughout his career and changed the world in doing so. His most well-known company, ImClone Systems, its drug Erbitux, has changed the trajectory of cancer diagnosis with its targeted therapy. Today, Sam Waxel is researching new innovations with a brand new company studying cellular therapy and keeping cells healthy as we age. This will likely have an equal impact to what he's been able to do for cancer treatment in what he's calling rock therapy. The founder of ImClone Systems, Cadman, and Graviton Biopharmaceutical Holdings, Chairman and CEO Sam Waxel is here. Sam, it's great to see you.
Great to see you, Maria.
Well, congrats to you. I love this subject, and I want to get your assessment on where we are in disease. Let's start with cancer. Since Erbitux, how would you characterize the fight against cancer right now?
Well, I think that we've done a tremendous amount of very important work in changing outcome for patients. Back in the days of Erbitux, we worked on targeted therapy. Erbitux was a targeted therapy, went after a receptor on cancer cells that was important in keeping certain cancers alive, and it was really an important new breakthrough. Since then, we've done more things in targeted therapy, but we've also changed the world of immunotherapy and work at Bristol Myers.
But yeah, that's probably worth a watch if you're interested in that sort of longevity aspect of of the world. This particular article I did come across as a part of my research that I'm doing in the background, just going through some courses, following some experts, things like that. That's why when I relay that message back to you guys, whoever's listening. Basically, when I heard them say those rate calls, I'm like, that's just gold. I've got to share that with someone. So hopefully that helps someone. So without playing the rest of that video, what I will do is this here. So after the rates took place, right? It was basically telegraph signaled, whatever, through other means that they were going to raise it by the 0.75%. Now, this article, which is in line with a lot of the mainstream media, came out and said, it's a jumbo US rate hike and shock and awe, Following that, over here in Australia, the share market plunged, almost as if they were completely unaware that it would, rise by this amount. Like, did they think it was going to be lower and the stock market was going to boom? I'm not sure what the narrative was because I wasn't following it too closely. Now I probably should, because it's always good to get the other side of a particular, I guess, not story, but we'll call it story. Two sides of the same story, two sides of every story, But the fact that the unknown, which was the rate hike, was kind of known by some experts in the field, and then the mainstream media tells you this, like what happened, and it was shock and the rate, and that's why the economy crashed. Had you been prepared for this, maybe you could have taken advantage of it, or it could have been more beneficial to you, or maybe you just could have known and been like, haha, I knew, sort of thing. Now, switching topics again, basically I've covered some Hedron, HSI, ICSA, Hex, T-Share, Ecosphere. I've covered some upcoming technologies regarding longevity. I've covered how, depending on where you get your sources of information, and depending on who you're, the expert that you're you've come across, like similar to how, you know, Richard Hart, I would say, is an expert in crypto, and that's what led me to, you know, invest in Hex and you know, follow the whole system. Depending on who you listen to could affect your decisions. Like, believe it or not, we have free will, but we can be influenced, as we can see through the. If I knew every location that you visited on the internet, and I was able to inject information details into those points, then I would be able to influence that particular person. Simple as that. Like, no matter how you, there's no real argument against that, but that's just my thoughts, you know. Now, this one was a good one. I'll cover this topic briefly. It's a bit grim, but because recently my mum did get COVID, and for the longest time, neither of my parents had it. Now, I didn't want to push my views on my parents. I don't want to push my views on anyone. But myself, I'm not, I didn't feel the need to provide my informed consent to take a treatment that was basically very new. I felt it was very rushed. I didn't feel like there was enough testing. I could go into other things, the ingredients, etc., in other particular treatments for vaccinations, but I won't. But they had to change. Anyway, they had to change the definition of a vaccination for these new vaccines to fall under the definition of a vaccine. But that's, again, some other research I'm doing. I could play that video, but I won't. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to. Actually, I think it's on YouTube. I'll play it another time. But remember this. I like this tweet. Everyone thinks they would be Oskar Schindler if they lived in Nazi Germany. COVID is showing that most people would support the Nazis. Now, as grim as it may sound, there's a book out there, can't remember the name just at the moment, and it basically explains that how the Holocaust took place. It was people following orders. Now, it's explained how they were shown how to, like, line everyone up and execute them in the book. And then it said it was left to them to go about their own means and continue that. So they could have said no, but they went along with everything. Now, obviously, it's a very different level of what's the word I'm looking for? Is that one was a lot more violent looking back, but when you compare what took place and how everyone in current day did just go along with what was told, whether it be a lockdown, a policy, whatever, there was no questioning that particular order, if you look at it in that way. And it was just very sad to see. I know people probably did it because they thought they were doing the right thing, and they thought they were, they thought they could trust what was being told to them. I mean, I want to see how this plays out. My parents, I'm hoping that the vaccine does something and helps them, and I'm hoping this thing doesn't, overwhelm her immune system. But yeah, I'll cover this one. Basically, this documentary is coming out, right? And if you Google died suddenly, it's really strange. There's a lot of, I don't know what you'd call it, events taking place. Not all of them are linked, but a lot more seem to be appearing. Now, in saying that, sometimes when using Google, they can censor certain things and you may not get a full picture, because if you don't know the actual website, the address, the URL, and if Google never shows it to you, how are you ever going to find it? Like, what if you never knew about hex.com and you typed in hex into the search engine and it never pulled it up? How would you ever find it? Just an example of some censorship. Not saying that's happening to Hex. I'm saying that can happen, and anyway, shifting back to this, died suddenly. There's I believe it's a documentary coming out. Follow on Twitter if you want. I'll put a link to this. I'm not sure if I should play this. Streaming the November 21st. Yeah, I'll play a little bit. I didn't even realize this, but I'll put a link in the bottom if anyone out there wants to share this to anyone they know. Do you know any one person that did receive the jab? What did they happen? What happened? What was the effect? Tell us in your own words about what happened to them. Now, I have an interesting story. Not sure if I will share it. Well, I'll probably share it with them actually. I know about 2 off the top of my head. I have a very small circle, so maybe if there's other people out there, maybe this might help humanity. I'm not sure. Probably the kind of the ethos of these videos, they seem very dark and grim, very saddening, but I'm hoping it can trigger some thing in someone's mind somewhere and be able to think that's not right. Yeah, maybe maybe we need to make change peacefully, politically, legally, and lawfully. Maybe this video will reach someone who reaches someone else. I don't know. Now I'll play this back, and here we go. Basically, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Why? Why do we never believe them?
These people know. These people know.
Who knows?
The governments know. This has been well planned. This is Agenda 2030. This is the Great Reset.
Trailer only goes about 4 minutes.
Somebody mentioned to go onto Google and go into the news section and then type in "died suddenly." And lo and behold, here's a whole listing of people, of articles of people within that last week who died suddenly. Older people, but a lot of younger people around the world. And then you find out they were vaccinated. And so it's like, okay, so it's the vaccine might be causing this.
Most people don't want to know what's in the vaccines.
But yet when we open it almost 2 years into this, we find that it still says intentionally blank.
In fact, nobody wants to know what's in the vaccines because, look, if people understood what was in the vaccine, they'd go apeshit.
It's just there's something different about the blood. Something's causing this and something needs to be said. Somebody needs to look into it. I talked to other embalmers that have 30, 40, even 50 years of experience. Have you guys ever seen this?
There is some footage. I think they did it live on stream, and he's I'm not sure the name, scientist, and these images, I have no idea what they are. But yeah, I think they might show them here, so I'll shut up now.
This stuff before, and the answer was always, I've never seen anything like it.
Why is Bill Gates involved in public health? And why does public health spend the first part telling you how the world is overpopulating?
And at first glance, this is a bit scary.
U.S. life insurance companies have reported an overwhelming and unexplainable increase in all-cause deaths among 18 to 49-year-olds.
That's a 12 sigma event, 1 in 800 years, 12 standard deviations above the mean.
No one's even calculated that. It's apocalyptic.
I thought he was protected with that Pfizer.
There's a huge part of me that feels a responsibility for everything that's happened. I'm so sorry.
The doctor after a while came out and said, your son's dead, you can go home now.
Who knows? Young people are dying these days.
So again, not being anti-vax here, just pointing out some facts. Hopefully the filters don't go nuts on this particular channel. But these I have no idea what that is. May or may not be related, but those are the growths they were referring to, that embalmers, I think that they were coming across, and no idea what they are. Never seen before.
I said to Mr. Hirschman, this is different. This isn't normal, is it? And he said, absolutely not.
The dead can't speak for themselves, so therefore I have to speak for them.
We're connecting dots here.
I'm getting bad vibes about I might just skip, because I don't think that the algo is going to like this particular these words. So changing gear from that, let's have a look at, I was going to make the video about the upcoming midterms in the US, because we can kind of see how the US is policies and government decisions are affecting the whole world, ranging from, I don't know, supply lines to wars to interest rates, you know. So we have here but mind you, back when Trumpy was running, I did place a bet on Trump, and the odds were highly against him winning. No chance, you know. I think 9-1 or something. Hillary was supposed to win, or Hillary. So you got to keep that in mind when looking at this. But I think most people are probably aware that things aren't good in the US. I don't live there, so I can't speak from firsthand, but from my analysis, I guess, from what's being presented, what I'm coming across, and not just from one particular outlet, it's across the board. And then when I'm being told things are good, the things that I'm being told why they're good logically don't make sense. So I don't believe when they tell me things are peachy and rosy. Now, if I was a betting man, I might be placing a bet on the Republican majority. However, I would rather, instead of saying that, I would rather people actually get out there and, you know, in real life, make action happen. I'm not going to tell people to vote for like Republicans or anything, or Democrats, or not vote. None of my business, you know, I don't live there. Don't want to interfere, but this is the reasons why I would be, if I could, probably voting for a party that hasn't caused huge inflation numbers through their policies, hasn't caused an increase in crime. I don't know if you see on like the news, Twitter, there's lots of crimes that are taking place and there's general lawlessness, and I think it's because the police are like, well, why are we going to risk our lives if a person ends up back on the street the same day? What's the point? We're basically, there's already a recession. I think it's already been 1 quarter of decline. Stocks are down. Arguably, we're in World War III. And maybe people don't care about that, I don't know. But when you look at fuel and you go shopping, here in Australia, I've seen the fuel is not too bad, but there is more shortages coming, and basically inflation is insane. Like, you look at the price of eggs a year ago to what they are now. Now inflation is reported 8.6%, maybe as high as 14 or something, maybe higher. But when you go to the shop and eggs are like twice the price, 100%. And if it gets worse, you're going to be spending all your money if you're working, because you might have lost your job, you know, and you might not have come across something that can provide you financial freedom, like, you know, you're going to be paying all your money on food and energy. Like, what if energy skyrockets? What if it absolutely moonshots? That's not a good thing, you know, because you're paying that money. Your wages aren't going up. Your dollar's worth less. Your superannuation or 401k, I think it is in the US, is probably decreasing substantially. What else? The food is costing you more. The rates are increasing, so your mortgage repayments, if you even have a house, you know, are skyrocketing. So that's going to cause civil unrest among people, because on top of that, there might be crime. On top of that, there's lawlessness. and then you got the whole division between the left and right. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I think I did hear... No, I won't cover that. But yeah, we're seeing lost growth. So if you're a company, you weren't growing. We've seen lost income. We've seen business failures. We're seeing unemployment. All of it on the rise under a particular political party. Now, then you look at the odds, and that particular political party maybe is not going to get in. But if they try and, you know, pull some shady business, generally the only thing that can stop it is a huge, overwhelming number of opposition. So yeah, that's just the sort of stuff that I find interesting, as well as cryptocurrency. Before I close this one out, we'll cover the next topic, which is this here. This is pretty interesting. Before I read my chapter 7 of SPAs, this was from Drudge Report, highlighted in red, 21 hours ago, so haven't checked it for a day or so. Trump team eyes November 14th announcement. So I don't know what that means, you know. Maybe Trump's waiting for, you know, the ICSA HSR to kick off, and you know, and then he's going to announce it. But that was just something interesting on the political front. May or may not happen. I don't know. Who's this? I don't know who this journalist is or what outlet he works for, but that's pretty interesting, I thought. Now, but why, you know, his advisors has been signaling for weeks that 2024 announcement is imminent. So I don't know what that's going to do to the US. No. But again, if I had a choice between one party or the other, I'm pretty sure I know which party I would be choosing. Mind you, I think politics are the same side. Both are the, you know, two sides of the same coin. And, you know, ultimately it's sort of a fugazi that you think you're free when you actually get to two-party policy. So, yeah. All right, moving on from that, time for chapter 7. All right, chapter 7, The Voice. There we go. Leave Trumpy there. Leave Biotech. Leave Biotech, because I found that interesting as. No, okay. We'll leave this. Now, The Voice, Chapter 7. By May 2026, public interest in SPAs had begun to wane. In late April, the CDC had publicized an update case fatality rate estimate, suggesting the SPAs was only fatal in 0.6% of cases in the United States, where access to medical treatment was available. This figure matched public sentiment widely expressed on social media that SPAs was not as dangerous as initially thought. Combined with persisting doubts that Calicovir and the lack of commercially available SPAs vaccine, the news lower case fatality rate estimated led the public to grow increasingly hostile towards continued SPAs messaging. In order to overcome the public's disinterest, the CDC and FDA, in concert with other government agencies and their social media experts, began developing a new public health messaging campaign about SPAs, Calicovir, and the forthcoming vaccine, Corovax. The purpose of this campaign was to create a core set of messages that could be shared by all public health and government agencies over the next several months, during which time the SPAs vaccine would be introduced. Even though the disease was less fatal than initially thought, it remained expensive to treat in its severe form, and even mild cases had substantial impacts on economy productivity across the country. In late May, 3 messages were approved by the cross-agency committee established to produce the messaging campaign. One addressing the nature and risks of SPAs, one regarding the effectiveness of Calicavir, and one about the anticipated release of Corovax. The messages were broadly shared via all relevant government agencies, internet and social media accounts. In an effort to further reach certain population subgroups, agency officials enlisted the help of well-known scientists, celebrities, and government officials to make short videos and Zap clips. Zap was the new social media platform in this particular textbook. And in a few cases, give interviews to major media outlets. Among those chosen were former President Jacqueline Bennett, BZ, a popular hip-hop star, and Paul Farmer, a co-founder of Partners in Health and renowned global health expert. The campaign produced mixed results. Common messaging did reduce public confusion, evinced by a 15 to 23% increase in the public's correct understanding of SPARS and Calicavir in national polls. While common messaging resulted in more cohesive traditional media coverage, the celebrity outreach campaign was more problematic. It's got some pictures of some tweets here. I guess I'll read them out. I'll read them out. Let me fucking show them actually. Come on, focus. The best thing. I'll read them out. Basically, it's got like a tweet, a picture of a tweet that says BZ at whatever it is. When I said yesterday that I was proud of the black community's contribution to the hashtag TuskG research, I meant I was proud of how the other tweet under that said they remain strong in the face of adversity. I am saddened by the injustice and suffering they experienced. So that's the second tweet. Third tweet, but I strongly support the CDC, hashtag CDC's and hashtag FDA's recommendations to take hashtag Calicavir and hashtag Corovax and hashtag to stop SPARS, hashtag vaccines work. Fourth Twitter post by Jebediah Johnson. Former hashtag President Bennett was characteristically hashtag indecisive when I asked if she would want hashtag Calicavir for her new grandson. And there's like a link to that particular post. So that was the problematic campaign. The next sentence. BZ's original Zap clip was widely shared, particularly among African American and urban populations. However, an interview aired on Access Hollywood during which he was asked about the accelerated clinical trials for Corovax. BZ noted his admiration for those who volunteered to participate in the trials and then compared these relevant volunteers to volunteers in previous health-related studies, including the men who volunteered at TuskG. The resulting backlash, particularly from African Americans, undermined the effectiveness of BZ's efforts. Not long after, 60 Minutes aired a live, nationally broadcast interview with former President Bennett. When asked if she would want her new grandson to receive Calicavir, Bennett, caught off guard, paused, and eventually gave a hesitant, somewhat contradictory response. In brackets, experts say the drug is safe, and it's not easy, but I think, everyone should make the decision that's best for their family. End quotes. Video clips from this interview were shared widely on social media and by traditional media outlets, leading many healthcare professionals and members of the public to criticize Bennett for not taking a strong stance in support of Calicavir. The aftermath of the interview, however, did galvanize many House and Senate Republicans to support Calicavir use in the earnest and in an effort to demonstrate their opposition from the former Democratic president. Okay, I'll repeat that. So, in the aftermath of the interview, however, did galvanize many House and Senate Republicans to support Caligavir use in earnest in an effort to demonstrate their opposition to the former Democratic president. So, in this example, the treatment became political. Go figure. Wow, who would have thought that would have happened, you know? Oh wait, this came out before. Anyway, that's the end of chapter 7. Now this is the little project we have to work on, right? Page 28, chapter 7, communication dilemma, responding to misinformation or doubt about an MCM generated by a prominent public figure. Food for thought. Given the ability of powerful popular figures to reinforce or to undermine public health messages, what steps might health authorities at either national or local levels take to reverse the negative effects of BZ's unintended linkage of Tuskegee and Crovax, or Bennett's tepid, uncertain support of Caligavir? So should should this break out, then how do we deal with that? I find that amazing. Now, that's pretty much everything, I reckon. So I covered very new treatment investments in a new generation of cancer chronic disease treatments. I covered, actually before that, I covered my simple explanation of the HEX, HSI, HDRN, ICSA, T-share, ecosphere, how it's a self-feeding loop, and eventually how the price could get to a point where HEX becomes super scarce because of the feedback loop with HEX and ICSA, and then the advanced amount or the loans or the credit system might kick in because HDRN might become more expensive, and it might provide an arbitrage opportunity for any leftover HEX to be turned into HSIs, and those HSIs to be loaned against. Or I guess people would bid on them to get more HSIs, driving up the price of HDRN further driving up the price of the HDRN, and also the HSIs would then become more profitable to borrow against. So that's next generation sort of stuff. I have my little diagram, still trying to decipher it. You know, you bid, you win it. There we go, you bid. I deciphered my own notes. You place a bid for the HSI, you win it, yes, no. If you know, and if you win the bid, yes, you either transform it into ICSA, convert that into, say, a stable, or straight into HEX because they got liquidity pairing, I think. Pretty sure they do. And then, or you would hold it and then later on get your HEX because you held the T-shirt. Simple as that. Then I covered the unknown rate hike, which was some analysts correctly predicted, which I was following, and that's how I was led to that information, and how I tried to relay that back to people who wanted to listen. And basically then the mainstream, because of their lens that they see the world through, basically said, oh, we didn't know what happened, and there was a jumbo rate, and we don't know why then the stocks crashed. I then pointed out some political things, such as, actually no, I didn't. I did I covered this particular tweet, which I loved. There's some deep thoughts into the vaccine, which has now affected my parents in both very different ways. Well, actually, no, I can't say that because you can't actually prove that. So don't kill me, YouTube. Basically, one parent basically had the vaccine, and then not long after developed cancer, stage 3. Had surgery, removed, okay for now. Now, is that related? I don't know. But before the jab, there was no cancer. After the jab, there was cancer. They discovered cancer. So anyway, now that scared the crap out of me. And then now my mum's gone the longest time. She's had about like 4 or 5 jabs, whatever, and she's now actually contracted COVID, so it didn't stop her from getting it. But now it's like, as the book says, you know, how effective was the jab? Didn't stop transmission. And then the question is, in this particular documentary, they might show you some interesting stuff, you know. So maybe I'll submit some data to them. I don't know if anyone else wanted to do that, so I thought I'd share that. I'll put the link in the bottom. And then I covered the previous 2016 election, how I placed a bet on Trump. It was like 9-1. Basically, I won that because, again, analysts were forecasting that that party would win, regardless of the head. And was able to make some money on that. So if I was a betting man, I might place some bets on the Republicans, but also I was saying that you don't want to actually just, you know, just bet on it. Maybe if you had the option, maybe actually go and vote for who you want to vote. And I pointed out some things like lost growth, lost income, business failures, unemployment, all on the rise under one particular party. They have awful policies against Afghanistan, China, Ukraine, really bad oil policies. This shortage is coming, price is going to probably increase. Because the Democrats, you know, are still in power technically. Well, they're still in power. Again, not my strong side there. But inflation's on the rise, crime is on the rise, recession is in, stocks are down, there's war, there's fuel shortages, prices of everything is going up. If the Republican, they need a fair few votes to get things done, but they can probably get the majority. Then I covered this announcement, so maybe, I don't know, might make some people happy. And then I covered spas, and that is it. And signing out, hang on, what's this? Been there, what's happening? Teen Top, what's happening? Sensu, what's happening? Nice. But yeah, and I might not read some of that out because I think you know where I stand on that. But yeah, so this channel is copied over on Rumble as well. So if YouTube decides to scrap it, then that's where it's going to be. And then if that happens, then you can live stream over there. So all good, all good. And yeah, so hopefully that helps someone. Hopefully, if anyone's catching this in the replay, yeah, I'll put some links in the below. For my interests, for these interests, you know, you might find something that you find interesting. And yeah, signing out.